What's going on, everyone? This is Ryan with Automatic Comics, and we got another CGC video today. I do kind of wish I could stop making these. I don't like seeing that there are the mistakes going on over at CGC. These little errors and things that seem to be happening, but they are, and so I think it's worthwhile to make sure that you're at least aware of them. Now, if you remember, a couple weeks ago, it was maybe 2 or 3 weeks now. I don't know. Time's always difficult. 2 or 3 weeks ago now, I had a video where I talked about the fact that the grade dates were no longer visible on the CGC graders notes page. Like when you go and look up the cert number for a book, you couldn't see when that book was graded. Now, we have been told that this was not intentional and that grade date is supposed to be added back in. However, it has not been added back in yet. So we hope that that is actually going to happen. But until it does, I'll take anything I hear with a grain of salt. Now, I think that what's going on here, you can see here this post that was on Instagram by Collect-A-Comic says CGC changing grader notes, question mark. Now, I do think that this is also unintentional. Even more so, I think that this would be unintentional than the grade date, because I don't really see any reason why you would want to remove this information. CGC clearly puts a lot of time and effort into putting in the restored type notes. Now, I know the other notes tend to be a little more like hit and miss. You may or may not get them, but the restoration notes are generally pretty thorough. They identify the specific type of restoration, often where it is. You can see here, like on this one right here with this Batman book, that it says, it's tear seals, top left of front cover, B1. Like it says the actual type, like a B type, and the amount, a 1. And I've had some that are fairly complex, and they have a lot of detailed notes there. And so I don't think that this is an intentionally removed piece of information. I'm guessing it happened about the same time, or exactly at the same time that that date was removed. And so obviously something happened when CGC went through that update that they announced a couple weeks ago or 3 weeks ago or whatever to the site, where they said they were updating their submission forms and all that. And it broke other stuff. And one of the things that broke was definitely that grade date. And another thing that it appears to have broken were restoration graders notes, which is kind of crazy. Like you would think that these grader notes would all be in the same field or something like that when they're populated onto that page. But it must be that there's in their database or whatever that they use, there's two separate fields, one that holds the standard graders notes, and then the other one that holds restoration graders notes. And for whatever reason, the restoration graders notes are now gone. And so you can see this with this book here that was, like I said, was posted by Collect-A-Comic, where on the left, this is a screenshot that is from Landry Pop, because they must capture a screenshot of the graders notes in the book, and then they just store it on their page. And that has this cached version of the notes, which show that, it says here, tear seals, top front cover, B1. But when you go to CGC's site for this book, that piece of information is now missing. Now, the other thing that's kind of interesting there is the graders notes shift around, they aren't in the same order. It's just, there's lots of little things here where you wouldn't expect this stuff to happen, but it seems to have happened. But the thing that I wanted to point out is that it does really appear that it's not just a few. It kind of seems like it's all restored books. And now I can't be 100% sure about that. It's just the 4 or 5 that I've checked. That's what I've seen. And when you look at this post here, he also posted another 4, and you can see that it's the same thing. Those restoration notes are just missing now. And but what we're going to look at here is I've got a couple books that I have that are restored. And one of them is this Marvel Mystery Comics number 9. And you can see here, it's got, I'm not going to zoom in on it, but it's got some, fairly extensive restoration up here. It's an A4. But if I go to the CGC site now for this book, all the restoration notes are missing. Now, it still does categorize it as A4. And you can see here the date isn't backlit. So date is still missing, grade date's missing. But now all those restoration notes are missing. Then if we go over to another one of my books, my Detective Comics number 38, which is an A3, also has, a bunch of restoration on it. And if we jump over to CGC again, you can see still categorizes it as an A3, but now those restoration notes here are missing again. So, you know, that's like 5 examples from the original poster. That's a couple examples here from me. Then we also have, there was a really big restored book that was in the recent Heritage auction. It was that Captain America #1. It was an A2 restored. This is the one that, the reason I wanted to point this one out is this one had a lot of information in the restored notes that wasn't like totally clear on the label. And so this one had an internal Jack Kirby signature, went for $72,000. And if we jump over to Heritage, you can see that book right here. I mean, a great looking book. If we take a close-up look at the label, you can see the Jack Kirby authenticated autograph. Restoration includes small amount of color touch on cover, pieces added. And then this is the one where it was the label notes got pushed to the back too. So to cover, reinforced, staples replaced, all 3 edges trimmed. And so that was the whole point of that conversation in that video, was just to make sure that you check this, you know, the back of the label, because this one had this little thing that says over, you know, basically telling you to look at the other side. And if you go to CGC's page now for this book, this one had a ton of grader notes on it that were describing what restoration was done. Now, it was originally displayed here, but it looks like since the auction has ended, it's not displaying here anymore. So you can't see what it originally was. But if you go over, you know, over here, you can see that it's all missing. And if you go back and check my prior video, you'd be able to see like where I went and showed that. I scrolled down and showed those notes, and it had things like staples replaced, cover trimmed, you know, that kind of stuff. That information was all there, and it's no longer present. So I don't know exactly when this happened, but I am guessing it was the same time that those grader dates were removed. And I'm guessing it just wasn't really caught until right now, or noticed by people, because it's restored books, which is a smaller market. You know, less people are interested in restored books, so less people are likely to notice this. Now, the information is still on the label. You know, I mean, like, so you can still see, like, we jump over here, I zoom in, you know, you can still see that information on the label. It's just that in the grader's notes, like you can see with the example that was provided right here, you do get additional detail that is not present on the label, you know, where it describes the specific level of restoration. Because especially with more complex restoration, you can have, even though the overall restoration for the book might be B1, there could be a mix of types of restoration in there. Or it might be, say it's like B4 or A4. You might have some parts that are A4, some parts that are A3, some parts that are A1. And all that type of information is only here in the notes. It is not present on the label. And so it is important to know that this is going on, and just make sure that you keep an eye on it. Hopefully this stuff gets addressed as quickly as possible. It's one of those things where I was talking about this with someone, and you know, if the grade had suddenly disappeared, I would think that would have gotten fixed like immediately. So I'm sure this stuff can be fixed. You know, it's just like, it needs to be fixed. Like, this is the kind of thing where we don't like seeing this. It's not a good look. So hopefully CGC gets this addressed as soon as possible, gets the grade date back, gets the restored notes back, and anything else that we may have missed that is also broken now, you know, on this site. But hey, I don't know, the challenges of graded comics. But hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell, and I will see you on the next one.